Action.
Don't make these filmmaking mistakes.
And what are they? First of all, don't buy a fancy camera. Here's why. Everyone thinks that if they buy a fancy camera, they become a Scorsese, Spielberg, James Cameron. No, that's not how it works. Fancy cameras are fancy cameras, and fancy cameras comes with complicated issues that you need to know about, and it comes with a crew, it comes with advanced light that you need, and all other things. It's just something that you don't need to worry when you make a small film, when you make a first film. You need a camera, that's true. You don't need a fancy camera though. You need a camera that can shoot HD, because still we live in a world where HD is useful, where YouTube uses HD, theaters screen movies in HD. Maybe Netflix prefers only 4K at this moment, but there are lots of venues that can still play your movie in HD. So any camera that shoots HD can work for a movie. The secret though, if we talk about equipment, is the sound. The sound, you probably need to invest more in early films than in the camera, because sound is not just the microphone that you need. Sound is a space where you're filming. Is there planes flying? Is this room reflective? Is there a noise from your refrigerator or from other things? So the sound is very important. And it's important because when you go try to screen your film somewhere, if your sound sucks, people won't accept your film, because nobody wants to hear noises while they're watching a film. They can tolerate a very, very, very cheap camera, but they cannot tolerate sound. If there is a noise, if there is some weird refrigerator is burring and just produce sounds that annoys you, that's not good. So you have to think about sound, and you have to probably invest in a good enough microphone. It doesn't have to be a top quality professional microphone with the recorder and things, even though it's still gonna be great. But you need the microphone that you can get close to the actors, close to your subjects that you're filming. These microphones could be pretty cheap. You can get a small microphone that you mount on your camera. For example, you can take a microphone that you mount on your camera, and instead of mounting it on your camera, you put it on a mop stick and tie it with some scotch or gaffer tape and put it as close to the subject as possible and make the volumes lower, so the quality of the sound is the best. That's one way to do it, to get the microphone as close to subject as possible, but out of the camera, of course. Another option is to write a film where you don't need your characters to speak and have the voice over in the background, or no voices at all. Filmmakers break into two camps. One is say that you shouldn't use voiceovers, and then there is another where people use voiceovers all the time. They overuse it. I think it works if you design it that way, and it doesn't work when you try to fix something by voiceover. So write your story with this in mind, that you're telling a story, and how can you tell a story without your character speaking? By making your visuals more clear, more concise, with a meaning. The most important thing when you make a film is your story, the screenplay, and the characters that you create. The technical things are there to serve your story, to serve you, not to be the master of you. So the camera, the sound, the lights, another gear that can come up in your world, like gimbals right now, drones, and all other things that people use all the time, those are just tools. And if you have a drone in your film, it doesn't make your film an Oscar-worthy film. Yeah, it might make a cool shot, but a cool shot without purpose is just a cool shot. There is no story in it. So don't worry if you don't have money for a fancy camera. You just need a camera. You need any camera. Even film camera. Well, film camera actually going to be more expensive, but if you have access to some older cameras, older formats, it's pretty good. It's actually great, because there are not a lot of films right now, like especially short films, that are shot on those cameras. And when you make a movie on a camera that is not used currently, It makes your movie stand out. So it's another good reason to use the camera. But do invest in sound as much as you can, because the better the sound, the better your movie. There's going to be some point that you reach that the sound is, much cheaper than the cameras. But when you're starting out, I think the sound should be, a little bigger investment than the camera, because you want your sound to be good. Or don't use the sound. It's up to you. So what are the next mistake that we should avoid?
The next mistake not to make is don't have 10 locations or more. You don't need too many locations. That's one of the other big mistakes you can make, especially if you're making a short film. It's better to have less locations, 1 or 2 locations, and focus really on the story. Because the more locations you have, that means there's more logistics that you need to plan around that. The more locations, it means that it's going to be more expensive. Your budget increases because you have to budget for each location that you're going to rent. And locations are probably one of the most expensive things on your budget, along with equipment. And also just taking into account for each location, you have to have a permit most likely, or insurance as well. So all of that costs a lot of money. And the more you have it, the more locations you have, the more it will cost. So make sure you don't have too many locations, because it's easier. I mean, even just for scheduling of the film, scheduling wise, it's much easier to have less locations, either be on one location for most of the days, or just have a few locations that are in close proximity where you can do easily company move. But if you have way too many, and it just makes it harder to schedule the movie, it makes it harder for transportation. You need to plan also how you're going to transport the equipment, how are you going to transport your crew, if the parking situations in each of those locations. So it's just much easier when you're writing the screenplay to also write that, to have that in mind, to have less locations, which will make it much easier and much cheaper for you to make your movie. Well, what is the next mistake filmmakers shouldn't make?
They don't have a budget. And especially, they don't have a detailed budget. That's very important, because you forget many things when you go on film. For example, as simple as a hard drive. If you're shooting with a camera that records 4K or more, or you just have a very small SD card or any other memory card, you run out of footage, and then where are you going to put it? You don't have the hard drive. And that can ruin your film and ruin some of the films that I worked on, because the person who was responsible didn't have the hard drive. That's pretty embarrassing, but it's very important. And such a simple thing can ruin the whole movie. So that's why you have to have a very simple story, because even with a simple story, there's still going to be a lot of things that you might need to buy or need to think of where to get them for free. But you need to think of them. It's not like you come on set and say, all right, who has the box? And everyone's just blinking at you. What box? Well, the box from the script. This box should be included in your budget, and someone has to be responsible for bringing it on set. And that's very important. That's why the budgeting is so important. Okay, yeah, you can make a movie and forget about all those details, but it's just simply going to mean that you're going to spend a lot of money to get them fast, or just sacrifice something, sacrifice the quality of your story, sacrifice the footage and everything. It's not going to be a simple solution. It's going to be a sacrifice, either of a lot of money that you wouldn't spend at all otherwise, or the quality of your movie, the quality of your story. Try to think of everything that you might need for your set, and to add even an extra security. Add 15% contingency. Just calculate everything, and 15% of your budget, just put it for like extra expenses that you might need. so you don't go over budget. Because everyone is so creative. Everyone is like, oh, I want this, I want that. And then they go over budget, triple over budget, 4 times over budget. And it's no fun anymore. And everyone who spends those money doesn't like it. So they won't want to work with you anymore because you spend all of their money and even more. So as an independent filmmaker, especially, you have to be aware of the budget. You have to deliver under budget. Don't go over budget. Don't go fancy. Be creative. Use your creativity to make the story better, not the budget to make the story better. Because it's always a better solution. Even on the huge sets, if you listen to the other interviews or talk to some of the filmmakers or work with them, you'll notice that they are extremely creative and they don't really want to waste the budget. They find creative ways to improve the story. And if they find that creative solution, is usually the best part of the movie or the best scene of the movie or even the best sequence of the movie. But if they tap in the budget, try to solve problem with money, it's not going to make a significant scene. It may make a scene that just kind of passes by and you don't even notice. So, but you go over budget because of that scene that nobody notices. Make a detailed budget. And another important thing that is sort of related to the budget is the sound design. Put sound design in your budget. Put sound design in your budget. I'm going to say it the third time. Put sound design in your budget. Because if you don't have a good sound design, it's not going to sound good. You know, the actors' voices, the music, the sound effects that you want to put in your movie, if you want to use all of those, they need to be properly mixed, properly designed in a special software, a special audio software, like Pro Tools or some other software that professional sound designer use. And if you don't have the money or the budget for that sound design, just try to use as little sound as possible. Try not to use sound. Or budget, $100 for yourself to buy the software and to learn yourself the software, how to use it. But that's like a DIY option. Usually, filmmaking is a team sport, so you have to find people who can do that, or find someone who can work for free, but you have to put it in the budget. You have to put a meal for that person in the budget if they're going to be on set. Or if you don't pay them and they're going to be working at home, you have to compensate them somehow for doing this work. Unless you're doing it yourself. If you're doing it yourself, you can do whatever you want, but still budget some money for the software that you need, or find people that you need. Write a detailed budget. Now, on that note, let's move to the next mistake that you should avoid.
The next mistake to absolutely avoid is casting inexperienced actors.
Oh, yeah.
And rushing through the casting process. And I should clarify, by inexperienced, it's a debatable word, because I do think an actor can have no acting experience whatsoever and be a great actor. There's lots of filmmakers that casted just regular people in their movies that have no acting experience. But it's nice to have, especially when you're doing a short film. Your budget is very limited. Your time frame is very limited. Obviously, you're not making a high budget studio film where you can hire, coaches for your actors to coach them stunts and to coach them accents and whatnot. So that's what I mean, by having experienced actors, at least actors that know how to hit their mark on set. So you don't waste time on that. But really, really, I think what the biggest mistake beginner filmmakers make is not casting the right actors. Because your time is limited, or you do the casting process the last thing of your pre-production, which is so wrong. It's a big mistake. And then you just settle for some actors that you're not really satisfied with. You don't really think they're completely what you imagined, or they're really right for the part, but you're like, okay, maybe they can do it. And I think that that's one of the things every filmmaker should learn very early in their career not to do. don't settle for less. If you in your gut think that this is not the right person for the job, keep casting. And that's why you have to give yourself the time, at least 3 months prior your shoot date, to do the casting process, and even more, you have to find really the right people, where you're in the casting room, you see a bunch of actors, and the people that really move you, and you see them and you're like, that's the character. Those are the ones you want to cast, and not settle for less just because you don't have time. Because ultimately, those are the people that are telling your story. They're really bringing your screenplay to life. And it doesn't matter what camera you had and how expensive the camera was, or how beautiful your location was, or how beautiful the costumes were. If the acting doesn't work, doesn't translate your story to the screen, the movie is just not going to be good. It's not going to work. So don't settle for less. Give yourself time for casting. Don't rush through the process. What is the next mistake that filmmakers should avoid?
It's kind of similar to the acting, the unfinished screenplay. Everyone tries to make a movie when the screenplay is not finished. They think they're going to finish it as they go along. No. First, finish screenplay. Yes, you can adjust it later. Do some, dialogue editing or whatever if you need to. But first, you have to have a finished screenplay. It has to be good on its own without any additional changes. What people do is they just have an unfinished screenplay that is not ready to shoot at all. It's not like some improvements going to help it. You need to first have a solid structure, great characters, and the screenplay that you can actually afford to shoot. Because it's just going to create so much problems, so much worries, so much anxiety, so much money waste, time waste. The crew going to be hating you. The actors will not respect you. Everyone's going to be just trying to live through the day if the screenplay is not good or unfinished. The screenplay that is active, that uses active verbs. The screenplay that doesn't have a lot of adverbs. The screenplay that shows us the story, not describes the pattern on a wallpaper in the background. Some people just spend so much time describing the room and all of the details, which is absolutely, page waste in a screenplay. It may work in novels if you do it well, of course, but you just need to set the general tone, to set the mood, set the tone, where we are, what time is it hot, is it cold, like the essential details. So then we can just dive into the characters. And then once the screenplay is written, people will figure out, the production designers or you will figure out, okay, I'm going to do this wallpaper, blah, blah, blah. Don't do the production designer work in your screenplay. That's what the production designer for. Just write a story, and try to get us through it as fast as possible. So that's it. Just don't start with unfinished screenplay. Now back to you, Rumikay.
I will add to all of these mistakes is having unmotivated directing and editing choices. And what I mean by that is, of course, throughout your career, when you do movies, you're going to add something there in your directing or your editing because you think it's cool. It's just a cool shot. It's a cool effect. Split screen looks really cool. And I'm not saying you have to have a reason for every choice. Sometimes you might put something because it's cool. You don't have to justify everything. But really, the art of directing is about having a reason for the choices you're making, meaning the way the camera moves, the way you set up the shots, whether it's a point of view shot, is it a wide shot? All the shots have a different effect to the audience and a different thing that they can reveal about your characters. And the same as with the editing and color. And so all these elements is what creates the art of cinema and the art of directing. So if you really want to be a great director and improve really as a director, it's important to think really hard about the choices you're making and not put them just because they're cool. Like, not make a movie black and white because it's cool. No, I think that every choice should serve the story. And of course, you're gonna have moments in some movies where you put something there because it's cool. And I think a lot of filmmakers do have that, where, oh yeah, I put that effect because it's cool, and they don't feel like they have to justify that. But most of the time, the really great directors that we all admire and follow, like, really have a reason for every choice that they make. And that's why then people do all these film criticism videos where they analyze all the choices, all the hints, and all the things that the director made. But that's really a clue to that director is a great director, because he really thought about every single choice prior making the movie. Okay, what color I'm gonna use, how the camera is gonna move, and what that movement is gonna convey to the audience. What type of feeling will it convey? Is it a shaky camera? Is it a steady? Do we enter the scene very steadily with a dolly and it sets us in this mood? Everything really matters, and that's how you're going to become a good director and make great films, if you really think about these things. What is the next mistake you think a lot of filmmakers make?
The last mistake that we're going to talk about today, and it's not the last mistake ever. There is a long list of mistakes that you can make. Today we just picked the mistakes that we think that people ignore most often. These are mistakes that are key to the success of your film if you don't make them. Mm-hmm. So the last mistake that you should not make is not having a plan for your movie when it's done. So, okay, yeah, you're making a movie, trying to make it happen. But what's going to happen when you already complete everything? You complete all your editing, your sound design and everything. What are you going to do with the movie? Many people don't even think about it. Yeah, many people don't even think about it. But you have to, at least consider it. There are three main options that come to mind: the festivals, the private screenings, and online distribution. Which one you're gonna pick? Which one is for you? Only you can decide. Some options might be more available to you than the others. For example, I think if you don't have enough budget or enough network, the best thing that you can do is to make a public screening. Ideally in a theater, if you can rent it, or at least at someone's house or at your house that has a big TV with a good sound, where you can invite all your friends or your audience. The movie is not complete until you let the audience see it. It is only complete when people see your movie. If you just keep your movie in the can and nobody sees it, it might not even exist. How can you prove it? You first need to show it to someone to prove it. So prove to the world that you made a movie. Screen it in theater. Screen it in theater. Put it on some online platforms. Or submit it to film festivals.
Even if it's bad.
Even if it's bad, it will make you a better filmmaker, because you'll see exactly what's not working. Because you might not see all of the things that not working once you just complete it and saw it yourself. But if you screen it to the audience, to the live audience, you see all the mistakes that happen. Sometimes it happens to me when I just, there is a movie that I was watching, that my favorite movie that I watched by myself. And then I screened this movie to my friends or to Rumena, and we watch together this movie, and then I see the movie and I see all the mistakes that I didn't notice, because now I'm kind of watching the movie through the eyes of the person who is watching with me, or through many people who are watching the movie with me. It's an interesting experience. So it's not even working just for your movie. Yeah. It's working the movie that you just watched by yourself. So have some other eyes to watch the movie, so then you can kind of connect to their brains and imagine how they might perceive the movie. So that's it. With that in mind, let's move to our favorite section, the obsession of the week. Rumki, what is your obsession?
My obsession of the week is the movie Good Luck to You, Leo Grande, directed by a female director, Sophie Hyde. this is a wonderful movie starring Emma Thompson. I highly recommend this movie because it's about an older woman, a middle-aged woman, that has never experienced an orgasm in her life and decides to hire a male escort. So it's just this wonderful movie about these taboo themes in society, how we go through the life of this woman and we wonder how, she went through life being so ashamed of these things about herself and her life. And it's just a great movie. I highly recommend it because it's really wonderful and Emma Thompson does a great job. That's my obsession of the week. It's a lovely film that I feel like everyone should check out. And also, one thing to note, this is a feature film and it was really shot with 2 characters. There's only 2 characters. Well, maybe in 2 scenes there's like a waitress and another actor. That's it. But there's 2 main characters that drive the whole movie and practically 1 location, which is a hotel room. And that's it. The movie was great. The story is great. And it's what we talked about. You don't need tons of locations and tons of actors, tons of characters to make a really great film. So I highly recommend that one. What is your obsession of the week, Konstantin?
This time is the freshly squeezed juice. So carrots, beets, celery, and lemon juice. Freshly squeezed in a special juicer.
Nice.
You just put maybe like 3-4 carrots, half a large beet or a small beet, 1 celery stick, and half a lemon for 1 person. You just squeeze it all and put it in your cup and drink it. You have no idea how delicious it is. I feel like my vision becomes better. I don't need to wear glasses anymore. My mind works faster and just the whole body feels younger. And in fact, I'm gonna go and make it right now when we finish this episode. Thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in to Rumikay Talks.
And if you have any suggestions of themes for the next episodes we're going to film, please feel free to send them to hello@rumikay.com or private messages on social media.
Bye-bye.